This morning's Parshat Pinchas is the parsha most often read from the Torah during the year. We not only read from Pinchas this week, but we also read sections from it on every Rosh Chodesh, every new month, and every Chag, every holiday during the entire year. It contains 3 sections. First, it relates the blessing for our principled hero, or extremist zealot Pinchas. Second, it contains a census, a counting of the Jewish people. And third, it gives a description of the Jewish calendar. To some of us, these 3 sections, these 3 concepts, might not fit together. But I see the juxtaposition of these 3 ideas as very powerful. Meaning to say that the Torah recognizes that the biggest challenge Jews will face in a non-Jewish world is counting on one another to keep the Jewish calendar. And one must sometimes be zealous about marking off those special Jewish dates on one's secular work calendar if one has any hope of feeling his or her Jewish place within the Jewish community throughout the year. Personally, I met this challenge face-to-face in college at USC. I was taking a history course in a big lecture hall during my freshman spring semester. And after a small discussion session with my TA, I respectfully approached him and told him that I looked at the syllabus for the class and noticed that I was going to miss a class because I was traveling to Chicago for the first 2 days of the Jewish holiday of Passover. And of course, Murphy's Law, a midterm was scheduled for the class on those 2 days. I asked him if he preferred for me to make the midterm up early or make it up after I return from my few days in Chicago for Passover. I'll never forget how the TA nodded and said, "A holiday, huh? Let's just look at my calendar." I kid you not, he went into his bag and he pulled out the King James calendar. He turned to April, and lo and behold, he saw no holiday of Passover on his King James calendar. He shook his head. "I'm sorry. I don't see your holiday anywhere. You'll have to take it on the class. It's offered, or you'll fail the midterm." In that moment, I knew I had a choice. I could either stand my ground regarding the Jewish calendar. I could be perceived by him as an extremist, as a zealot. I could risk my future relationship with this TA. Or I could understand his perspective and fold. I could accommodate his worldview by subjugating my own. This is why the Jewish calendar is presented in Parshat Pinchas. And this is why the character of Pinchas is presented before a discussion about our counting and the calendar of holidays. Because if we don't open up our work calendars and mark down the high holidays and Sukkot and Simchas Torah and Hanukkah and Passover and Shavuot and Yizkor days, then guess what? Nobody is going to mark them down for us. Our particular calendar, the times presented for us in this parsha, it's the fabric that binds the Jewish people together, and one of the ways in which we get counted inside of our community. Even as a freshman at USC, I found a way to summon the strength to explain to my TA in the moment, "Listen, I understand my holiday is not on your calendar, but if you're telling me that I can't take it early or make it up because you don't recognize the holiday of Passover, then I'm going to walk out of here and make a phone call and have a feeling that your life is about to become very difficult." He looked at me and he closed his calendar and he said, "You got to do what you got to do." So I walked out of that class and I called Rabbi Susan Lemley, who was at that time the Dean of Religious Life for the campus at University of Southern California. She was, to put it simply, amazing. She heard the story, apologized, and assured me that she would straighten out the situation, if not that day, the next. Within several hours, I had a written apology from the professor of the course, and then an apology much shorter from the TA. Along with the apologies, the question was put back to me by the professor. When would I like to make up the midterm? When is convenient for me? Pinchas is a lesson for all Jews in all times. Sometimes if we want to be included in Jewish life, if we want to be counted as a Jew inside the community, sometimes that means we have to take a stand as a Jew. Sometimes it involves the Jewish calendar, but it always involves the memory of Pinchas. Pinchas symbolizes an instinct, a muscle inside of every Jew to stand up and unapologetically fight for their Jewish identity. For some of us, it comes very naturally. For some of us, it's uncomfortable. The Jewish calendar affords us many opportunities to prioritize our Judaism over work, over sports, over hobbies, over the rest of our lives. And when we come together as a community, whether it be on Shabbat or Chagim, we are exercising the Jewish muscle in our being. So yasher koach on exercising your muscles today. It's like we all went to the gym together. My kind of gym, the kind of gym that ends with bagels and whiskey. Shabbat shalom.